If we really want to buy a business and be a succession plan, we got to be a good-looking buyer.
Yeah.
We got to be attractive.
Yeah.
And we have a lot more to offer together than we do separately. And we were already on the same page on a lot of things. Like, why don't we really start looking at this, and maybe we can be succession plans to other advisors. And that's where that third advisor, Derek, came in, where we started really talking about being his succession plan. And again, somebody that we all respect and know, and he deals with the very unique set of clients that have very high technical skill set. Roberto and I were both very interested in learning that technical skill set, which most advisors don't shy away from because it's very complex, especially high net worth, intergenerational wealth, tax law.
In this episode, I explore Abiel's story from selling burritos to running a financial advising firm. He is living his dream of owning his own business that helps first-generation business owners discover financial independence and create generational wealth while setting them on the path to financial literacy. Abiel tells us about the power of self-education, the role of mentors, and how to go from a scarcity to abundance mindset. Enjoy this conversation with my friend, Abiel Acosta.
What's up, buddy?
Hey.
Abiel Acosta.
Hey.
Thanks for joining me. Get this disclosure out of the way so Monica doesn't say I did it wrong. Abiel Acosta, registered representative of Osaic FA. Those exact words your compliance department told me to say. So tell me a little bit about what you do.
Well, currently I'm a financial advisor. I own Acosta Wealth Management Incorporated. We have a financial planning team that works with first-generation business owners. That's kind of like a little bit about my background. My parents had a restaurant. I saw all the struggles that they had to do just to support our family. Nobody really wanted to talk to them because they had a little taqueria.
Yeah.
They didn't have a portfolio. They just knew how to do what they had to do to survive and provide. So there's a passion with me in working with business owners and seeing what they had to do to struggle to find success and help their family. So our financial planning team is really geared towards working with first-generation business owners, helping them find financial independence and create generational wealth.
You guys have an acronym that comes to mind often, HENRYs. Tell me what that is.
HENRYs, high earners, not rich yet. So that's a service offering that some people on our team do. Really, it's the millennials, the up-and-coming Gen Zers who are starting families, finding their professional jobs and careers, making some money, but still swimming in student loan debt, having kids, trying to figure out, where are they going to live, their housing. So HENRYs, they're high earners. They're not rich yet. They just need a place. Where do I even start? Where do I begin? I don't portfolio. That's in the future. Where do I just start right now? So it's more foundational planning.
Yeah, that's neat because when you come out of whatever type of professional background you have, or even without a professional background, if you are earning some money, you're not trained in how to be financially literate.
Yeah, there's no financial literacy.
And I think we should disclose this podcast will have no investment strategy, no financial advice. So we're cool with compliance that way as well. So you spoke about serving is it mischaracterized as calling it underserved community?
Yeah, I would say underserved, especially the first gen business owners. Usually, if you think of like a first generation business owner, they could be immigrants. They could be even escaping a cycle of generational poverty in their family. And now they're starting something from scratch, right? So they don't have any background on financial literacy, perhaps.
Sure.
They're just trying to hustle to make it, right? And that might be where they don't even know who are their advisors they should have. They sometimes don't even know who their tax people are, that they even need an attorney. All these different complexities. They're just trying to survive and hustle to find that success.
Yeah. So you're kind of putting together a team for them to tackle the needs that they need, tackle the needs they have, and make sure they're in touch with the right people.
Yeah, absolutely. Whether it's even millennials, Gen Xers who are still either already finding success and their business is already humming.
Yeah.
All the way to like the baby boomer generation. Now they're kind of figuring out, well, what now? I'm thinking about retirement. Am I selling the business? Am I giving it to my kids? Can my kids even handle it? So just that there's so many different complexities and nuances to every business, even their industry can have some nuances. so we customize the planning for that, and really looking at family dynamics and charitable goals, all those things that people may have. But the first thing is like business owners, they don't have portfolios.
No,
they have real estate
the
and they have their
business,
business, right? Exactly. So our industry usually ignores people unless they say, hey, what's your AUM? What's your assets that we can manage?
Mm-hmm.
So for us, that's why it's so important that we make sure like we target those people, the people that are business owners that may be ignored by my industry because they don't have the liquidity to invest. They have their investments, they have their business. So we want to make sure we're reaching out to them and being their quarterback for whatever they need.
Your industry, there's a lot of players in the game, and it can be challenging finding the one person that does have your back and the one person that's just not looking to put a portfolio in place and reap the residual income from the investments, I suppose. So it's definitely an area that is ripe for integrity and honest people and smart people too. So speaking of smart, tell me a little bit about your background. I know, so why don't you tell everyone else where you went to high school, college, and all that good stuff.
Yeah, born and raised Ventura, California. Went to small little private schools all my life. So
me too.
Yeah, I went to a Catholic high school, St. Bonaventure. They were really good at football.
Yeah.
I didn't make the team.
My grandma was there, I think, during
that's right. Yeah, that's right.
attendance.
She was there. So after St. Bonnie, went to Dartmouth College in Hanover, New Hampshire. Loved it there. It was also small, kind of similar to the schools that I went to out here, but completely different. It was, it was forest, not beaches.
Yeah.
No McDonald's nearby, nothing, no Starbucks. It was just really whatever the campus had.
Mom and pops and little college town.
Yeah, you can walk around the entire campus in an hour.
Wow.
And the city pretty much. Outside of that, it was just trees and forests, animals, moose, skunks, all that stuff.
Was it like a culture shock coming from Ventura? Ventura's not big, but it's definitely not walkable in an hour.
Yeah, it's exactly. Culture shock, not just with the size of the town, the weather, the extremes of
you had to
fall.
learn how to dress up.
Yeah,
get a jacket.
It was funny seeing the California and the Hawaiians. Like, you knew who they were just by how overdressed they were in layers, even on 40-degree weather. Other people are in shorts.
They're like, oh man, the sun's out. It's 30 degrees. This is great.
Yeah, exactly. It was probably the biggest thing was no Mexican food. I don't know how that is then, but I grew up on that stuff. Yeah, there was. At the time, they think my senior year, they started coming out with wraps.
Okay.
So it was not even Mexican food, but at least it was, how you eat the food was not in the sandwich.
They're getting the style down at least.
Yeah. So I made it out there. I loved it. I loved those 4 years that I was there, but definitely East Coast was not for me.
Yeah.
I remember this one day, I was in Boston. And I just remember seeing like all the architecture. It's all old English, which is cool. It's beautiful. It's brick, but it's all gray.
Yeah.
You just kind of think
Drab
of like
and dreary, huh?
It is, right? Even the weather, and you think of SoCal, and you think of like the Spanish style roofs and kind of like the more bright colors.
Sure.
Maybe, and the sun kind of goes with those colors, right? Versus the snow and the gray. And I just remember feeling like, man, this is not for me. I miss Cali. I miss the sun. I miss just even
being
the Spanish roof, all that stuff, right? So that was an impact of why I wanted to come back. The other one was really like at Dartmouth, really good school. They had
Ivy League, right?
They had it was an Ivy League. They had career fairs, and they had all these big company names. You recognize them, I don't know off the top of my head. Goldman was there, all the investment
firms,
all the investment firms, all the consulting firms, all that stuff. And when I was just learning a little bit more about the career path, because I was already an economics major, finance, I noticed that like a lot of those opportunities were going to really wear you out because they were entry-level jobs, 100-hour work weeks.
Yeah.
They were just gonna use you and then probably abuse you and then kick you out, and you were just there to make somebody else a lot of money. And it wasn't really like you were a number. You were just a number. You weren't a person. Maybe even the clients felt like, they're just the super wealthy companies being wealthier with this investment banking.
Yeah.
So that wasn't really my style. I felt like I want to do something that actually helps people and families, and I really was thinking people like my family.
Yeah.
You know, and the other aspect, I always wanted to be a business owner to some degree. That was always kind of
you
like
had this
my call.
plan from a long time, early age.
Yeah. I'll probably talk about that, the selling burritos story. But there was always a little aspect of me that was entrepreneurial in nature.
Yeah.
So I after college, I graduated, and I came back without a plan, without a job, and figured out let's see what I find. But I know I wanted to use my major in economics. Wanted to be a business owner. I just didn't know what, and I wanted to help people, but I didn't know what that was.
Yeah. So we'll get into those, how you came to realize those 3 goals, but tell me about the burrito selling story, because I know this, but it's such a great epitome of who you are as an entrepreneur, a little hustler, but also like just a good human.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, kind of started in middle school, but it really took off in high school. It was funny because being, going to school, instead of getting a sandwich for lunch, my mom used to make me burritos.
Okay.
Right. So that was already one thing. So 5th, 6th grade, I remember taking burritos, and kids were like, "Hey, can I trade you?" I'm like, "I don't want your bologna sandwich for my burrito.
Yeah, no.
You can either pay me, or we can, exchange if you had real food, So I remember this kid had shepherd's pie. I'm like, all right, we'll trade. That was real food,
Yeah.
High school, by then my parents had their restaurant, and they used to send me to school with burrito as well from the restaurant.
Yeah.
And I just remember one guy was just looking at me like, "Hey, where do you get that?" I'm like, I brought it from home. And they're like, "Can we trade?" The same thing all over again. He had his sandwich. I'm like, "No, but I'll sell it to you." He's like, "Really? How much?" And I don't even know. At the time, it was probably like $3.
Yeah.
It was the late 90s, so before inflation. So every day I was bringing burritos, and every now and then people would hit me up, "Hey, can I buy that from you?" So I'd use the $3, go to the snack bar, buy something for $2. So they had little Dominoes or whatever, and keep the profit. It was just me. I was like 14 years old. But by senior year, then I already had a system down. People knew where to find me at break.
And you were the burrito plug.
I was people knew where to find me. I had a little piece of paper with my notes, and I was probably ordering 13 to 15 burritos a day from students, from the teachers, from coaches. They knew where to find me. And they're like, "Oh, I want a carne asada, beans, rice, and cheese. Can I have a bean and cheese?" If it was somebody on their birthday, cute girl, I'm like, "Hey, I'll get you a bean and cheese burrito.
I'll get you a discount or something.
Yeah, I'll hook you up today. Free one today, And I had my little pocket change to make the phone call on the payphone. I probably looked like I was drug dealing. That was burrito dealing, man.
That's funny. How did the burritos get to school? Mom and pops drop them off?
An employee dropped them off. They knew how to, where to take it to the front. I came back. People knew where to find me at lunch. The table I had, I gave them their burritos. It was all set.
Surprised the school didn't shut you down.
I gave some burritos to the people at the admin. I greased some palms. They got hooked up for Christmas with tamales. They were happy.
Yeah.
So
That's awesome. It's a cool story. I'm sure the folks were happy because they got a little like marketing.
Yeah.
Free. Well, I guess it's not free, but good marketing for your mom's pop.
I paid mom and dad a little bit for cost.
Yeah.
I kept the rest. Most of that money went to college applications and gas or whatever. But
sure. But that's a good life lesson. You were hustling from a young age, and kind of, you got to put your nose to the grindstone in order to come up in life. And that's one thing I always liked about you. You're always smart and meticulous, but you also had that hustle spirit. And that is a good life lesson for people. It's not something you always learn in school. It's something that you learn by trial and error, right? And kind of one of those things that you just learn by, hey, I can make a little bit of extra money by selling something I know and seeing what people want, the supply, the demand side, right?
Yeah. I have another story that just kind of came up because I was telling my wife about it where, my stepdaughter, she's sophomore, and we're already talking about prom and just kind of talking about it. And especially with our 2-year-old, Christina makes a joke like, "I'm going to be buying Maggie 2 prom dresses," because she has me wrapped around her finger. And I tell them a story when I was a senior in high school going to prom. You just rent a tux for one night.
Totally.
And it's a couple $100, and you're a high schooler. You're like, why do I have to pay for this much money for one?
And to wear this ridiculous clown suit.
Yeah. So I went to one of the prom suit places, and I don't even know how I did this, or what, I don't know. And this memory came out of nowhere, but I was a senior, and I'm like, "Hey, if I can make a deal with you, how about I model some of your suits to school? And if I do that and I get people over, can I get a free rental?
Sure.
They're like, yeah. So they gave me like 3 different suits. I took them to school. I went to class decked out in a tux, different black, powder blue, different ones. And
the conservative and then the non-conservative ones.
Yeah, totally. And they're like, what are you doing? I'm like, well, check out, here's, tuxedorental.com or whatever it was, that spot. And I got a free tux rental as a result of that.
That's
so
smart.
Yeah, just whatever I could do to hustle, save some money,
man.
or make some money.
So when did the idea to want your own business come to fruition?
Yeah, I think it was innate. I think even at a young age, my parents saw that. I was probably even trying to sell marbles to friends and pogs, if you remember all that stuff back in the day.
I remember the pogs.
Yeah, so I think it was innate. My aunt has a business. She retired. She recently sold it. I know I take a lot of lessons from her, even to this day. She didn't really even have a high school education, probably even get to middle school education, but she's very successful, just figured it out, even real estate and how to be a business owner, all that. So I took a lot of life lessons from her, which is kind of crazy because for her, it's common sense.
Yeah.
But for most people, it's like, I didn't even think of that, right?
Totally.
So my parents, my mom was the same way. I have a cousin, my cousin Ray,
I know Ray.
Yeah, I think that just there's some certain people in our family that just
got a gene, right?
They just got a gene. I don't even know.
Yeah. So for the people that in your family that didn't have that gene, do you think that's something you can learn? And what's the best way to learn how to be entrepreneurial or how to hustle if that's not something that comes naturally to you?
Yeah, I think it's definitely learning. I mean, I still learn. I'm still reading books, and I'm still trying to figure out what can I learn from other people's experiences and mistakes, as well as wisdom that they can impart. One of the things that I read is the book E-Myth, the E-Myth Revisited. Mm-hmm. That had a really good story about somebody who thinks they're good at like baking. They're a really good baker. Mm-hmm. So. Hey, you should sell your cookies because you're so good at that.
Sure.
And it kind of leads through the story of the person who thought they were good at baking was actually a bad business owner because they were still trying to only think of how do I make my own cookies, not really putting on a different hat of how do I delegate all these different tasks.
Totally.
So it's about hustle. It's about drive. I think, like I said, people who are coming out of generational poverty have a little bit more of that survival and hustle instinct because they have to, versus if you've been handed wealth or inherited wealth, that's a little bit harder to find that hustle and that tenacity and grit.
Sure.
Because that's what really you need, in the beginning. That's either hard to teach, but it's definitely you need it, right? Especially in both of us
you
together,
live or die, right?
Yeah. You gotta get through those first couple of years of survival and navigation, but I think a lot of it has to be taught, and getting wisdom from experienced people. It's always the best. Even my aunt, who I learned, she tells me of people that she learned from when she was starting out and struggling. Sure. So I think it's always talking to a mentor and finding out where you can educate yourself. I think anybody can do it, but you need that grit.
Definitely. You talk about your aunt a lot. What did she do and what business did she have?
So she's the OG. She started the restaurant that my parents eventually bought one of the stores that she had, but she started hers. They just celebrated the 50th year.
Wow,
that's crazy.
Is it Corrales?
Yeah,
okay.
Corrales. Yeah, so she's out now. My cousin's widow. She's still running one of the restaurants.
How neat.
But yeah, 50 years, wow. And she said she was told no plenty of times, even in the beginning, in terms of even trying to get the spot to rent out. Mm-hmm. She was getting talked out of. I got to say this too, because this is something that I think we need to say in Ventura County. She was the original OG founder of the corn burrito.
Wow, really?
And she was telling me, she was telling us about. She didn't really have much to offer back then. She just had beans. She had corn tortillas. Yeah. So she rolled them. And I only want to say that because Ventura, there's all these restaurants planting their flag now. We were the original. But she's 50 years old. Like, she's older.
First in time. She gets lay claim to
She
that, right?
she doesn't lay claim for marketing purposes. She just knows and she tells us. But
Yeah.
there's all these others. So I got to just say it.
Okay.
She's the OG for the corn
all those
burrito.
people need to pay her some royalties or something.
I know, right? Yeah, totally.
So if there was one piece of advice that you took away from your aunt that you still implement or use to this day, what is it?
You know, the one thing that she said that gave her so much blessing was being generous with others. And she said, for whatever reason, you put it out there. For her, it's. I'm sure there's a religious, spiritual aspect to it, but for her, it was kind of saying like the more you give out, the more you give away, more comes back.
Totally.
And maybe there's something out there with karma. I think there's also the aspect of having an abundance mindset instead of a scarcity mindset. Maybe that's something that goes on when you give instead of just thinking, hey, this is mine. And I thought that was a really early lesson that I learned a long time ago. And I try to keep up and follow that because, and I can't understand if it was really like, okay, we're getting blessings from God. Is that why we're doing it? Like, that's cool. But then when you start thinking of the abundance mindset, I'm sure there's some energy being put out there. We're like, hey, it's going to come back. So let me help others. Let me help these charities, or let me just help out people that are in need. And the more you put out there, I think that's where it came back.
I think there's an intention side of that too, that you want to give without the expectation of getting something back, because you will realize it. And I think it's a universal truth, whether you're faith-based, agnostic, whatever it is, the more you give out and the more good you do for people, the more the world's going to give back to you, even when you don't expect it, and probably when you least expect it.
Yeah, exactly. And she was out when she was telling me that lesson, she was almost in tears, showing about how much more blessings she felt she's received by giving out.
Yeah.
And I know there's people that really are so grateful for where they're at because of the things that they've done. So it's kind of funny, like she feels like she's more blessed despite helping others, you know,
Totally.
Like, you know, it's kind of interesting.
She kind of got to see the roots planted and they spread out and grew into something awesome.
Paying it forward. Yeah.
Definitely. So you come back to Ventura County. What was your journey like as a young college grad trying to scrap and find his way in this dog-eat-dog world?
Yeah. Well, the first job, I don't think I ever told you this. The very first job was, it was some random company I found. I don't remember, monster.com. It's kind of like Indeed, you know? And it was some company out in LA. So I was in Ventura commuting there. And I just remember like their whole thing was they dropped me off in a zip code in a neighborhood. And they were like, try to sign up UPS business accounts and go door to door.
Sure. No training.
No, they like, you know, a day of training. Oh. And basically, here's a script. Here's how you talk to them about UPS. It wasn't even UPS. It was like a marketing company that UPS contracted.
Okay.
So I did like 3 days of shadowing somebody. And they're like, okay, you're ready.
Yeah.
So where did they put me? They put me all the way in East LA. I just remember going to East LA, like Cesar Chavez, Avenue. I didn't even know where I was because I'm coming from Ventura. Most of those people lived in LA. I had to go the furthest, and probably because I was bilingual.
Okay,
like put me there.
They found someone. You speak Spanish. Go to the Spanish-speaking area of LA.
Yeah, no, I'm a 21-year-old guy, in an oversized suit, going door to door,
box
knocking.
Suits, huh?
Yeah, the box suits for Macy's, trying to talk to people about UPS, and
they're like, UP what?
Yeah, and it was like, yeah, exactly, and it was a little. There was some areas I was a little concerned why I'm here, why I'm in this neighborhood, but there was other places where they just had a bunch of businesses, and after a week of that, I was like, this thing sucks, man. This is not me, but I did know from that experience that I didn't have a problem talking to people and introducing myself. There was still that aspect of hustle that I really liked. But, you have a whole day of
cold calling, man.
It was cold calling.
That's the definition of hustling,
right?
Like
a good day was getting 3 accounts. That was a good day. And I was getting 1 or 2. I'm like, I can't feed myself doing this forever,
Totally.
And I was also feeling like, man, this isn't even what I wanted to do. This isn't even my career or my major.
Stepping stone in the right direction, though, I imagine.
Yeah. So while I was doing that and getting burnt out, like I said, it was probably like a week or 2 of that. I was going back on Monster, and I found this other company that said you can get licensed Series 6 and you can be a business owner. I'm like, okay, let me find that out. And that was also in LA. It was in Koreatown.
Okay.
And I went. They had this big group interview process, and the guy was also talking about, hey, you should be considering a retirement plan right now, even in your 20s. And I was like, okay. And he was talking about that.
Like, I haven't even started yet.
I haven't even made my first, my first buck. But they was talking about that. He was saying, this is a business where you can help people. And I was like, okay, interesting.
Striking all the right chords.
Yeah,
huh?
you can be your own boss. You can pick your own hours. I'm like, okay. And this is something where you get licensed. You can sell mutual funds. You can do this. And I was like, okay, I understand all this stuff. I studied stocks and economics and finance. I'm like, okay, let me check this out. So I went for it. Again, it was no salary. It was just, hey, it's all based on your hustle.
Commission.
It's all commission. Which was still in its own challenge, right?
Yeah.
I was 22 years old. At that point I was barely turning 22, but I studied for a week, aced the exam because that was my major as well. So it was like,
well, you're smart. You're being humble.
Yeah, but it was kind of easy at that point. I had to get through all the licenses by November, December of 2004. So 20 years ago already.
Wow.
I was already licensed up, and okay, who am I going to go talk to?
Sure.
But that's kind of like what started me down the path.
So what licenses did you get, and did you add any more licenses? For those people that don't know this area, give us a little thumbnail sketch of what that is.
Yeah, so the very first ones, they're just trying to get you off and running.
Mm-hmm.
A Series 6, which is basically mutual funds and annuities. I think that was it. And then this Series 63, which was more of a state license.
Okay.
And then California insurance, life and health insurance.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you needed to get started to be off and running with that
Sure.
company. I didn't stay long for that company. There just wasn't a lot of support and training, and it was in LA when I was living in Ventura.
That commute, for those that don't know, that can be rough depending on traffic, right?
2 to 3 hours. I remember one of those years was raining. It took me 3 hours to get there, which is normally like a 60-mile
drive, right?
Yeah, exactly. So it was just miserable. So, but as I changed firms, there was a lot more, I guess, support and a lot more training. The thing that I needed, though, was to get my Series 7.
Okay, and that's the one I'm more familiar with.
Yeah, that's your stockbroker's exam, right, or license. So it's everything the Series 6 had, but now you can learn about stocks, bonds, options. That gives you pretty much everything,
Sure.
alternative investments. Then there was the Series 65, which basically is putting me out there as a fiduciary, and we can charge fees. Right, versus the kind of the old school way was you only get paid by commission.
Mm-hmm.
Being a fiduciary allows me to charge fees, put myself on the same side of the table as a client.
Mm-hmm.
So that was an important license that I needed for the new broker-dealer in order for them to accept me.
Sure.
And then since then, that's just more self-education. I got my CFP, Certified Financial Planner designation, Certified Business Exit Consultant designation, and then most recently, Certified Plan Fiduciary Advisor. So
always
that's learning,
right?
Always learning, always trying to better myself on behalf of the clients and for the team and being a resource. So yeah.
So one thing that I think a lot of people may not know, and I only learned through talking to you, is the role of fiduciary and financial planners. Can you is it required to be a fiduciary or some not fiduciaries? Kind of touch on that without giving us your full-blown opinion.
Yeah. Well, starting out and for many, many years, it was not required to be a fiduciary. The industry was really geared towards commission based type of fees or pay. Fiduciaries were something that were, and even financial planning for that matter, was kind of something that I felt like was like a newer endeavor.
Kind of like unregulated a little bit.
It was highly regulated, especially by like the CFP board.
Yeah.
They actually were trying to really make this a case, saying, hey, this is a better way of working with advisors.
Okay.
Somebody who is a fiduciary, somebody who has your interest ahead of their firms or themselves.
Yeah.
But the whole
kind of puts
Wall
you on
Street
the client
industry
side, right?
Yeah, the whole Wall Street industry was kind of more like, hey, sell our product, that
make some money.
Yeah. Rules started changing during the Obama administration, where it started making the fiduciary requirement a little bit more needed, and especially when it came to like 401ks and the retirement plan space. Wall Street was very much fighting against the
Was that
regulation.
to protect against people using unknown investors and taking them for all they're worth? Is that kind of the backstory to why they
a lot of bad products sold, or a lot of fee disclosures kind of hidden. Fees
Sure.
were kind of hidden. A lot of advisors were doing things for their interest instead of for the companies. But then it just like any regulation, sometimes the pendulum swings where it's over regulation. It's been kind of finding its ground somewhere.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, even though regulation's been kind of like finding its ground, the industry in itself has been, and the public for that matter, has been learning more about who a fiduciary is, why it's important.
Mm-hmm.
The CFP board has been really doing a good job of marketing why fiduciaries are better than not, in terms of putting you on the same side as, or the advisor on the same side as a client. So it's really interesting because now I get a lot of questions from random people that find me even online. Are you guys a fiduciary? I'm like, hey, that's cool that they're
It's
asking.
a nice little marketing and comfort and safety aspect that people take a little bit like, okay, I can trust this person.
I can trust this person. So even though the firms might be against the regulation, the industry's kind of moving that way. Right? Yeah. It's almost like getting an EV. Right? Like maybe there's regulation or not, but people are going to be shifting, right? Or certain things. So I see that the industry is shifting, but not everybody's doing financial planning at the same level.
Yeah.
It's still maybe like a shortened process to get to the sale in certain things that I've come across. But for us, that's number one, is doing the actual financial planning.
That's neat. I don't want to get into compliance issues or trouble, so
we'll cut that out.
Yeah,
right?
we won't cut that out, but we have to make sure that it complies. I want to go back to your first job. And what was one of the, even though it wasn't the best experience, was there any lesson? I think I can maybe think of one that you took from that and applied it forward.
Yeah, it was probably a couple things. Number one, I felt a little bit more confident with my Spanish, because if I was able to talk to people in East LA about UPS and they were understanding me, I'm like, all right, I think I got this. You
didn't lose it after 4 years of Dartmouth, right?
No, much longer. Yeah. And speaking in business is different than speaking to family, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and then I think it was just really more self-confidence of what I can do and can't do, and what I can't do was really do that stuff. I knew like I wanted to use my brain and do things that were more geared towards that, but what I knew I could do was talk to strangers, get out of my comfort zone, because I feel naturally inclined to be an introvert. But
me too.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to get in front of this camera and do these interviews. So
you're natural, man.
I don't know. Hopefully.
That part, I think, okay, I can do this. I can get out of my comfort zone, talk to people, and at least try to make that rapport happen. And I think that gave me a little bit more confidence in that. But did I learn anything else, man? I don't know.
What about, this is what I was thinking of when you were telling me that story. Being rejected and hearing no all the time. Was that at first, was that like, man, what again? Did you learn to build up a strategy and overcome no's, or kind of go down that path for me?
No, I think you're definitely already primed and trained to expect many no's and how to overcome the objections you're going to have, because just like anything, some of the objections are usually the same. Yeah. They're just said differently. So yeah, I think dealing with rejection and getting a little thicker skin is definitely part of the learning process, and it definitely helped me in my transition to the new career, because you need a thick skin, especially 22, 23 years old, trying to talk to people that you're a financial advisor. You're
not even making any money yet.
Barely even shaving, you know?
How am I supposed to trust you with my money?
So it was a longer struggle at that age, but I also knew like, hey, if I have faith in myself and believe that I can do it, I'm gonna survive this this early phase, survival phase.
One thing I ran into when I was younger, trying to crack the business, was, you're so young. How do you have the experience? How were you able to overcome that message to you and gain the people's trust in order to get their business?
Yeah, part of it had to do with me making sure I knew my stuff, right? Like I had to have confidence in myself that I was the right person for this family. If I felt like it was out of my depth and there was more complexity, I had to lean on other people. I had to lean on mentors. I had to lean on more senior advisors with more gray hair. That's me today. I got more gray hair. I'm that person. But back then, if I needed a little bit more legitimacy, because they felt like they needed it to feel comfortable with me, I had those resources. So I felt really good about them. That was with the new firm. The old firm, everybody lived in LA. They didn't want to come to Ventura County, so they weren't going to go on meetings with me. But there was something about being in Ventura, having more resources. The other aspect too, I was when I went to the newer firm, I was also helping with a lot of people who were enrolled in like the company retirement plan.
Yeah.
So we had this big case, couple of big cases, and I'd go there every Thursday, meet at the cafeteria, and meet with all the employees. This one company had like 1,000 employees.
Wow.
And I started developing not just confidence, but I think their confidence, because they saw me there. They saw me being there every Thursday. I had my own slots in all these different locations at their on their campus. And I talked to people, again, different ages. So at the time, they were not even the baby boomers. They were older because they were already retiring, right? The baby boomers are the ones retiring now, but this was, the early 2000s or mid 2000s. So I had during that time, what also gave me a lot of confidence and probably confidence in others was early in our careers was the financial crisis. That was the worst of it. That's when the gray hair started really popping for us.
People didn't trust anyone that was trying to sell financial services
they were leaving whoever they had, and they were looking for somebody that can give them a different take, or they were maybe being ignored. Maybe they had the smaller accounts, which were big accounts to me. Yeah, starting out, but they were the small accounts to the other advisors, so they were being ignored and not spoken to. So that's the years that I started really finding my I guess my momentum. I got the experience of dealing with a really bad market downturn. Yeah, probably the worst in our lifetime. Hopefully that is the worst of it, right? But really trying to be there for people, giving them support, giving them a plan, a strategy, teaching them, or not just teaching them, but really, if they were younger, I'm like, what are we worried about this if we can't even touch the money till we're old, 59 and a half or 60 when we were in our 20s and 30s. Yeah. If they're retired, a lot more, or retiring soon, a lot more concerned and how to figure out, okay, how do we get you guys back on track and really be in there and their support. So I think those earlier years, as much as it was really a bad struggle from being young and youthful in a time when people were looking for experience, to then also being there for people during a really bad market crash, that gave me a lot of self-confidence in knowing I can talk to them, and really also learning how to strategize around. And to this day, I still think of it when somebody's about to retire. I tell them, okay, let's just assume the year after you retire, we have another 2008. Let's hope not.
Worst case scenario.
Yeah, but let's plan around it, right? So we feel comfortable, and I'm not dealing with a lot of stress for all my clients. Like it's proactive for me and for the client.
Yeah, I think that's one thing I've noticed about you is you're always prepared. You're very meticulous, but you sit down, listen to the people, and before you suggest anything, you just plan and develop something that's going to be tailor made for them. And I think that's something that a lot of people in your area don't do, and it's something very simple, and they would get more business if they took that approach. Yeah. So I think that's why a lot of people trust you, man. That's really awesome. I want to go back to the role of mentors. Are there any mentors in your company, in your life, or people that you, aside from your aunt, but in particular to your current position, that you looked up to or leaned on heavily? And you don't have to name them, but tell me some of the lessons you distilled from them.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I have Nick. He was he's my current mentor still to this day. He's been with the company or the organization I'm affiliated with, man, since the 60s. He is the one that kind of started one of the organizations that I'm affiliated. That's part of Osaic FA. He has a lot of, we call Nickisms, so because he has a lot of things, but honest, intelligent effort is always rewarded, was something that he always said. Wow.
I'm gonna have to take that.
He has a lot, man. I have tons of notes. I spoke to him yesterday, still to this day. He talks to me about just wisdom, counsel. Sure. How to look at my business, how to create a business plan, which was not something you're taught.
Most people don't know how to do that. I mean, they can go online and get some template, but most people aren't trained on how to actually create a thoughtful and workable business plan.
Right. Yeah. At 25 years old, he flew me up to NorCal where he's at. He brought experienced advisors and he showed me this is what they do. And he was there for me and like, this is what you need to do. And I'm like, okay, now this is what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah.
So how to write a business plan, he holds me accountable. So you can say, I'm going to do this, this, and this. And then if nobody checks up on you,
if you don't put in the work, you're not going to reap the success, right?
Yeah. But you got to get a grade from the teacher. you want to make sure, okay, I did my, I did my thing. So he was a lot. At my first job, Gene, I think he's now retired. He used to say, if you have a dream big enough, find a dream big enough to chase. If not, create a nightmare to run away from. So it was kind of like something, and that was survival phase. Like either you're running towards something or you're running away from something. But
hopefully you're running towards something.
Hopefully, yeah. But if you create something big enough, you'll do it.
Sure.
So yeah, lots of mentors, and to this day, I have my partners. Derek and Roberto, we always learn from each other. We're always pushing each other to be better. So I have a lot, and those are the ones that just kind of stick up out of my mind.
That's neat. I think, a lot of us, when we're starting out, like I need to do it myself, and you can't get anywhere by doing it yourself. You have to have, there might be some few outliers, but it's always easier with the role of mentors and leaders, and those are willing to share and be transparent, because a lot of people don't want to share their secrets. Like they get scared that if I share with you, you're going to steal my clients. But it kind of goes back to giving and receiving, right?
Yeah.
If you give, you're going to receive more. So I think that's a totally good story to hammer home that lesson. Aside from some mentors, what are some other resources? It doesn't have to be financial, like books, podcasts that you find helpful in your life. I think you talked about the E-Myth. Are there any other?
E-Myth, yeah. Probably the one that I still read and still listen to is probably I don't even know how many times I've read it. The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Stephen Covey, right?
Yeah, Stephen Covey. I learned about it back when I was a senior in college. Our fraternity had somebody come and speak, and I was like, oh, that's interesting, and I learned a lot about they did like a very high level.
Yeah. That book's pretty dense.
It's dense, but it was really impactful. So after I graduated, I bought the book and I read it, and I still I think it's back in my audiobook right now. Like I'm still kind of going into certain chapters.
Yeah.
Taught me time management. It taught me how to delegate and how to empower others.
It's a hard lesson to learn.
Yeah, what a leader is versus a manager.
Mm-hmm.
Those were all early lessons, right? Now it's as I'm moving into a partnership with other advisors, there was a section on, first off, how to be independent and then how to be interdependent.
Yeah. So
seek first to understand before being understood. Think win-win. All these like lessons were like so impactful, and sometimes okay, I have to go back to it.
Yeah.
And just what can I learn from it again?
Has that as you transition from, I don't know how much you can tell us, but as you're transitioning to with your partners, has it been hard to navigate the personalities and people's different, I don't want to call them egos, but the way people deal with things, coming from you didn't have any partners from your own business. Now you have 2-3 partners.
Yeah, totally.
Talk about that learning phase and transition phase a little bit.
Yeah, I'm very fortunate. One of my partners, we've been accountability partners since 2007.
Oh, wow.
So it's kind of like how me, you, and a couple of other buddies, we've just always held each other accountable.
Sure.
Despite our different career paths. We just chatted. He and I always, we've always respected each other, always challenged each other to do better. But it wasn't like competition. It was more like we're supporting each other, right? He was out of a different county.
Yeah.
We weren't even in the same town, right? But we also learned from each other too. Like, hey, I like what you're doing here. I'm going to steal that. And we kind of we started merging things together, but it was more like you have your practice, I have mine. So by the time we started really thinking about, this was like 5 years ago, about potentially merging, we went through it all. We talked it out. We hammered it. We saw that we were more alike than not.
Mm-hmm.
There's probably about 98% were the same, and then 2% were different. And then that 2% is where we can really see not so much challenges, but where one might naturally gravitate towards something that they like and they're better at than the other. kind of like somebody who's good at math and the one that's good at writing, but you're good at everything else together. I'm like, fine, you take over the writing, I'll take over the math.
Please handle that. I want no part of this.
Totally. So it's been, and because he's a few years older than me too, so I've always kind of had this relation like, you're my big bro.
Yeah,
like it's not.
You'll
no
look out
ego.
for me.
Yeah, we look out for each other. The third partner, we've both respected the third partner from afar, from a long time. And we've known him. We've done some work over the years with him. But now to be kind of as a merged partnership between the three of us, the older mentor Derek, he's man, he is a stud. He's awesome, man. And I feel like we're in class with the professor sometimes.
We're always learning, right?
We're always learning, and he brings not just the intelligence, but wisdom from experience, right?
Yeah.
And high integrity. When we're thinking of we're coming across a challenge, he's probably already experienced it. In fact, he has, and he's like, hey, I've seen this. He's already like 2 or 3 chess moves ahead to kind of help us guide, like, okay, we can avoid all this stuff. So it's actually been surprisingly a conflict-free partnership, and we've been working together now towards this for like really since COVID, really more in depth.
No, you haven't revealed too much, but I know you've been in the process, and knowing you guys, it's going to be very meticulously planned before you roll out the launch, as versus to me, who would just be like, let's do it.
Let's just launch. Knock it out. Yeah. And that's the other thing too. You got a partnership versus one man shot.
Yeah.
You got to take into account everybody's thoughts and their feedback before you launch something. But we're probably going to launch it next month. So we're 1 month early on this podcast. Otherwise I'd be saying it all over.
Maybe by the time this airs, you guys will be launched. So tell us a little bit more before we go into some other topics about what's next and what was the goal in forming this partnership.
Yeah. So what's next? There was a few things happening at the same time. I would say what was happening that's outside of our control is just a bunch of baby boomers retiring, not just in general, but even in our industry. And a lot of those gentlemen, mostly gentlemen, right? They're looking at retiring, but may not have a succession plan in place. Or if they don't, I'm sorry, there's a lot of people saying, hey, I'll buy your business.
Yeah.
So Roberto and I were thinking, you know what? If we really want to buy a business and be a succession plan, we got to be a good-looking buyer.
Yeah.
We got to be attractive.
Yeah.
And we have a lot more to offer together than we do separately. And we were already on the same page on a lot of things. Like, why don't we really start looking at this? And maybe we can be succession plans to other advisors. And that's where that third advisor, Derek, came in, where we started really talking about being his succession plan. And again, somebody that we all respect and know, and he deals with the very unique set of clients that have very high technical skill set. Roberto and I were both very interested in learning that technical skill set, which most advisors don't shy away from because it's very complex.
Yeah.
Especially high net worth, intergenerational wealth, tax law, estate strategy. I mean, there's a lot of complexity with
lots
that.
of factors to navigate, right?
Yeah. So Roberto and I were dabbling in it because we had Derek as a joint partner on a handful of cases.
Sure.
But now we're like, okay, let's really start learning it because these are your clients and we're going to take them over. So we're getting I wouldn't say a crash course, but we're definitely getting like a master class or graduate level classes on this stuff.
It's I think what I like about that story is always the willingness to learn more. Some people just get comfortable and then they're gonna coast. Sounds like you and Roberto are like, okay, we're comfortable, we could coast, but we want to learn more, not just because of the ability to make more money, but if I learn these more, I learn more qualities and how to navigate these tough situations, I'm gonna be in a better place to serve my clients.
Yeah, and what I can say about that too, we both had a similar passion where, it's, again, going back to that first generation business owner, my parents had the restaurant. Roberto was also the child of a first generation business owner.
Yeah.
His dad was in construction.
Okay.
We're both kids that benefited from mom and dad having a business, but also did not want to take over the business. And we both, so we're very similar on that. And the thing that really also connected us and our service offering and the things that's really kind of pushing us forward on this partnership is we saw you've probably all heard of it, like somebody who's becomes a trust fund baby. That's such a connotation that people already can think of.
Yeah, it's negative, but it's not always the full story, right?
Yeah, well, if you think about that first generation business owners, they scrimped and clawed their way to success.
Yeah.
And to think that by the time your grandkids inherit that wealth that you created, most of it, 90% of the time, that wealth is gone. That's sad.
Yeah, it's sad.
It's sad, right?
Super sad.
And we saw, a lot of that has to do with even the way some professionals create their estate plans.
Mm-hmm.
No fault of their own. Just the industry has all been about how do we save on taxes and how do we just get the money to the kids, but not really looking at what are the values that grandma and grandpa had.
Yeah.
And how do we carry those values forward to generation 3? But how about generation 4? How about generation 5?
Yeah.
Really start thinking long term. And we saw that was missing in our industry and just in general. So that was kind of a service offering that we want to start building around. We educate our clients about what a successful family does to create and maintain generational wealth. Maintain is the hard part.
Yeah.
Creating it might be easy if you're just doing documents. Maintaining it's the hard part. So we share with them real life examples, those who have found success doing that and those that haven't, and what can we learn and how do we tie that in with your estate planning strategies and how do we loop that in with your other professionals. So that was another thing that really caught us, was seeing the trust fund baby aspect and seeing, man, that's sad. That sucks. What can we do? How can we make that better as part of the financial planning industry?
That's neat. That's a void you guys identified and jumped on, and it's an opportunity that you guys saw and seized. So,
yeah.
I mean, not too many opportunities come up like that too often, and a lot of people would be may shy away from doing that because of the complexity involved.
Yeah.
And you guys dove head in first, so kudos to you guys. You kind of discussed your family a little bit. Tell me about the woman behind the man.
Christina's the love of my life. She's awesome, man. She is a blessing from God. I'll say that. Yeah. And she's a mirror, man. I'm gonna try not to cry in front of the camera.
It's okay.
It's all good. No, she's a mirror to me. She's a reflection of me. She holds me accountable if I messed up, but she also motivates me. She's the mother of my daughter. She supports me. She's my arm candy when we go to events.
Yeah,
like I love it.
She's funny too, man.
She's funny.
That's something that's undercover about
yeah,
her.
she's funny. She
makes a mean margarita too.
She makes a good margarita. Yeah, you gotta be careful with those.
Yeah, they're dangerous.
She has a good heart. Where I'm the entrepreneur, always thinking about kind of business.
Mm-hmm.
She's the social justice warrior in our house. She's always had this soft spot for helping foster kids. That's been all her career, is working with foster kids, whether it's Casa Pacifica locally to now working for the County Office of Education, supporting the foster kids in their in all the school districts in Ventura County.
Yeah.
I mean, she wrote her dissertation on education and foster youth.
Wow.
So she's very intelligent and has a huge heart.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's my rock.
That's good, man. I know. How old's your new daughter?
She's gonna turn 2 next month,
not
man.
Not new anymore.
Not new anymore. Yeah.
Wow.
So we got
Time's flying.
one kid about to start driving and one kid starting potty training.
Yeah. How funny.
The 2 most stressful parts of probably our lives, right?
Yeah. Well, you have built-in babysitting. With
I do. Faith is awesome. She's a big sister that loves her little sister, and she's awesome.
You have a beautiful family. So I'm happy that you found someone to love you and for you to love back and develop a cool little nucleus of a family and build that generational wealth for your kids.
Thanks, man. Yeah.
I know you have some passions and outside interests that may surprise a lot of people. Tell me about your love of piano.
Oh my gosh, man. Yeah, I think that one was also I don't know, I just remember having this little keyboard as a kid, and I just always was teaching myself songs. And my aunt had a piano, and I always gravitated towards it. I don't know why. I just wanted to figure it out. I remember even handwriting the musical notes on the keys. I was like 6, 7, 8 years old, just kind of already making little songs. But I took lessons. I started taking lessons in 6th grade 7th grade, I think, all through high school, and I stopped. But I kind of taught myself how to play it by ear, and it's just been like something about music.
Skill to me that I'm still like dumbfounded by how you do that. There's a story of, I think we were at the club on top of the Oxnard building. I don't remember.
Oh yeah, Tower Club, yeah.
And we were listening to, it was a Guns N' Roses song. It was like Sweet Child O' Mine. All of a sudden you just get on the piano. I was like, what the hell? Dude, you're like a savant.
Yeah, I just taught myself just to play because it was something that, like, I had to express myself musically.
Yeah.
I just didn't know any other instrument. Piano just came natural. It just
Sure.
seemed like logical to me, just where the notes go and everything.
So do you think it's the logic side of your brain or the artistic, or are they?
I think it's a little bit of both. Yeah, because the artistic side, I mean, now I started taking jazz lessons from my old college professor. I took one class in undergrad because you have to take like an art class, and I'm horrible at every other piece of art style other than music, right?
Yeah.
Can't paint. I can only do stick figures.
I can't even write.
Yeah, exactly. I hate writing. Yeah, all that stuff. So I took a lesson. That was music theory. That was my first time ever really being exposed to it.
That's a pretty heavy music class too, right?
It was an intro, but it was a little challenging because he comes from a jazz background.
Okay.
So he made it challenging, but he also made it fun.
Yeah.
And somehow I reconnected with him after my 15-year college reunion. I wrote him a little note and just said thank you so much, because whatever I took from that one semester
Stuck with you.
it stuck with me, and I started kind of always, when I started playing around on the keyboards or the piano just for fun, I would just remember that stuff from, God, when did I take that class? It was like 2001. That's how long it stuck with me.
You and I are the same age, man.
Yeah,
You're
man.
making me realize my age right now.
Seriously, man. I know. So we started, I started just really, I reconnected with him. I started learning jazz, which really, it's music theory on steroids, what jazz is, which I never really listened to, but I like hip hop.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of jazz elements in hip hop.
Okay.
So, but it's kind of helped me really get out of my comfort zone with improvisation. So it's
Yeah.
still that artistic side with technical, and it makes you appreciate it. But yeah, that's my jam. Even if I just have like a stressful day, I just need like 10-minute break, I'll just go to the keys.
Yeah, we always want you to play for more than 10 minutes.
I know. I told my wife the other day, she was like, play this. I'm like, I'm not a jukebox. Like, I just
I'm playing for myself.
play for me.
You talked about improvisational skills. Have you been able to adapt that from your piano playing and apply it to your personal, professional life?
Yeah, I think any social setting, there's a little bit of improvisation, right?
Yeah.
Whoever you're talking to. If you're talking to an extrovert, like our friend Peter or something like that,
There's no need to improvise.
I don't need to improvise.
Just listen.
I'll just listen. Yeah,
Or
exactly.
tune out.
Yeah, probably tuning him out too. Yeah, exactly. Sometimes I feel like I'm the extrovert, as introverted as I naturally tend to be. I can be in a situation where somebody's way more introverted, and now I'm kind of improvising the conversation, which is get out of my comfort zone, but I still have to, okay, what's going on? Like, just trying to build rapport with people.
Reading the room a little bit. And taking the temperature.
Exactly. And reading how people are, and looking at their body language, and I think there's always improvisation in life.
Yeah.
It comes in, I would say, even back then, the first job, sales.
I was thinking that you totally have to adapt to how people are. You can't always have one face on the whole time, because some people might be turned off to it. Some people might really absorb into it. But if you can't navigate how people react to you, you're not going to always be successful.
Yeah. Even in my career, talking finance, somebody might be an engineer, so I have to come prepared and be ready for that. Other people learn visually, so I have to come prepared. Sometimes it's just stories. I use stories and
That's how you
metaphors.
hooked me.
I use stories.
Keep it simple and tell me stories.
Yeah, that's what people sometimes need to understand something that's very complex. So sometimes I come up with things right off the top of my head. I don't even know where it comes up, but people are like, "Oh, that makes sense."
Yeah,
cool. I'm glad that makes sense.
Perfect. Well, I think that comes down to you being able to read the room, but also listening to people. Mm-hmm. Because if you don't listen, then that's going to go over their head, and that person that's in front of them is going to be like, "This person's not."
Or they can be nodding like, yeah, I get you, and then you see like, no, they're not getting it. They're just trying to shut me up. Let me try it again a different way.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, that makes sense. Like sometimes that clicks. Yeah.
Got it. You mentioned hip hop. What is one of your favorite albums of all time?
Man. Okay. Dre 2001.
Okay. Well,
DJ Quick, Rhythmalism, or my old ones, but those are like 90s.
okay.
Right?
Give me something from the 2000s.
2000s, man. At that point, was I on Napster? Did I have albums back then? Yeah, I mean, like the 2000s, man. I'm trying to give me some. Who was there like back then?
How about let's do it this way? What is one artist that you like that may be more or after our time, not from the 90s, a newer artist? They're probably not new now, but for us, they would be newer.
Okay, so probably the piano. I like Alicia Keys. She's not hip hop, but she's R&B. I always gravitated towards Alicia Keys no matter what. Newer, it'd be like Kendrick.
Okay,
obviously.
that's what I thought you were going to say.
Kendrick is probably, there's probably a little bit of LA, Ventura,
West Coast bias.
West Coast bias, because everything that's West Coast I like.
Yeah.
But especially SoCal more than NorCal.
That's going to generate a little bit of animosity amongst our friend group.
I know, right? It's all good though. But yeah, I would say Kendrick is probably the one that has the crown right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was thinking maybe J. Cole.
J. Cole is a fave. I know Christina, my wife, she really likes J. Cole. We both like Kendrick. I mean, Faith, she'll bust out with Kendrick rhymes.
He's a poet, man.
He is. He is a spoken word poet, right? When it comes to some of those things he has. Outside of that, I mean, I listen to all genres as well. I'd be surprised.
Who comes top of mind when you think about that?
I have some classical in my playlist. I have Bad Bunny in my playlist. Maybe that's not maybe that doesn't shock you. Maybe that doesn't shock you.
No.
I have let's see, man. I mean, I have some old school grunge to new school rock.
Yeah.
Some classic rock I'll listen to. I have you remember I used to have my vinyl collection, my Led Zeppelin stuff. I like reggae. I have Revolution. I have Bob Marley. I have jazz, like I was mentioning. So I really actually like Bill Evans, and man, I just lost the main guy, his name, but some kind of blue. I just lost his name right now. Chain of thought, but. Love jazz as well. Just learning some Oscar Petersons. Those are some crazy names.
Some names. Let's go look up.
Miles Davis. That's what I was thinking of. And John Coltrane.
Davis and Coltrane.
Yeah.
That's neat. You mentioned you're kind of biased towards SoCal, and I know you like basketball. Are the Lakers the best team in the NBA?
Of course.
Who, in your estimation, I know we were talking about this before we got started, and this was going to be a tough question for you, but who's your favorite Laker? And then who is the best Laker of all time?
My favorite is Kobe.
Okay.
Outside of that picture you have of MJ. MJ was the GOAT, I think, but Kobe was number 2.
LeBron people are going to say
they're going to say LeBron.
Say LeBron over MJ and Kobe.
I know, but you got to think all those guys learned their moves because of what MJ had, right?
Yeah, well, he had to learn from someone too.
And Kobe learned from MJ, and he was the closest thing, and loved. I mean, God bless him. All his life, I was a fan. From when he got in as a rookie, I was in high school still, so I was cheering him on because he was
air
young.
balls against Utah in the playoffs. He just
all those
keep feeding me the ball. Keep feeding me the ball.
Yeah, but all the championships.
True.
I had the Mamba Mentality book. I read that before his passing. That was like I just appreciated how many things he did just for layups. How many just the fundamentals and his mentality, and I felt like I could take that to business as well.
I think a lot of people think these guys they're all talent, and they are the most talented people, but the amount of effort and work they put in on the back end, there's stories of Kobe being 2 a.m. in the gym just putting up jumpers. So these guys put in the work. Yeah,
and he put in the work. I felt like just above the rest. That's why he was who he was, right? So for me, he
was wired differently.
He was, but there's still some learning lessons that I think we can all take from the way what he did and how he got there.
Yeah.
So he'll be probably my favorite Laker.
Okay.
And then the best one. So we got Magic and we got LeBron, we got Kobe, right?
What about Kareem?
Kareem is good too. I would say I might have to go with Magic over LeBron because Magic and Kobe were Lakers throughout, right?
Through.
LeBron's been kind of all over the place.
Yeah.
But in terms of Magic, he saved the NBA back then with
Yeah,
Bird.
yeah.
Yeah, he is the reason I became a Laker fan back in the 80s.
Man, he was smooth.
He was good, man. Just
Showtime Lakers.
Yeah, just still to this day, still one of the best point guards. I know people say Steph, but point guard.
Pure point guard.
Yeah, that was magic, man. Just all of that stuff, and he was amazing. Kareem, I think, is usually overlooked, but he is. I remember even as a kid, couldn't imagine anybody even beating Kareem. He just seemed like he was
the
just
most unstoppable shot ever.
Shot maker.
Sky hook.
Yeah.
And still no one has brought it back.
Yeah,
No
totally.
one could block that
Nobody's
thing.
on that level. Yeah. So Kareem is good, but he played for the Bucks before. So I
Yeah.
got to say Laker. I got to say that. LeBron is definitely, man, I don't over him or MJ. I think because LeBron can play any position and that durability.
Yeah, the longevity. Man, he's playing with his son.
That's nuts.
That's the first time ever, I think.
Yeah. He
crazy.
won't. I don't know if he'll be number one, but he's definitely
1A maybe.
Yeah, 1A, maybe 2 or something like that.
Where does Shaq fall into this factoring?
Shaq is.
You're a Kobe guy. So.
I'm a Kobe man. Shaq I loved. He was good, but he I don't think he put in the work.
Yeah.
I think there's some really good lessons that Shaq does. You know, you hear his podcast and everything, and he has a lot of life lessons. But in terms of like the work ethic during the NBA, it was Kobe, not Shaq, that put it in. You know,
Totally. Awesome. If there were 5 people you could have dinner with, dead or alive, name top 5.
dang, dude. So if I'm going back in time, I'd probably say like St. Peter or something like that.
Okay,
Just
that's a
maybe
good
find
one.
it- yeah.
I never would have thought that one.
Yeah, I don't know why that popped in my mind. Just find out what he saw,
Yeah,
find out from him.
philosophical roots.
Yeah. I guess if that's the case, I'd probably just say Jesus.
You got both. You got 3
both.
more.
Okay. Yeah, 3 more. Probably, let's see. I don't know, man. That's a good one because I'd probably say Abraham Lincoln would be good and George Washington.
Yeah,
I mean, those two are probably,
probably
some.
the 2 top presidents we've ever had.
Yeah, and
As
there's
we're
some
getting
things to
into a
learn.
presidential election.
Yeah, totally, man. Those two were good. Like for their own reasons.
Yeah.
What I respect them both, and then, I mean, even Teddy Roosevelt's on there. But I would probably say the last one. I don't know, man. I'd probably put like Isaac Newton or somebody that did something crazy for the world.
You got some intellectuals and
Yeah.
some leaders in there.
Yeah, I guess I would still put Kobe in there.
I like that. Well-rounded. I wanted to ask you, and I kind of got off on this question. What got you into basketball? Of all the, you said you weren't good at sports, but why?
Yeah.
Why was basketball kind of the one that stuck out to you?
You know what? I just have those memories of watching the Lakers back in the 80s.
Yeah.
It was just so awesome to watch Showtime and this picture you have of MJ just reminds me of like it's poetry in motion sometimes. Some of those things that they do.
I live for nostalgia.
Yeah, man. And I still really enjoy watching even soccer.
Yeah.
Like that has its own beauty.
The World
way they
Cup for
play.
me, when it's on,
Yeah, dude.
I'm tuning out work. I'm like, World Cup's on. I'm going to wherever I have to go to watch it. I remember in 2000, I think, I was at an English bar sneaking in with a fake ID just to watch the football games. Like Brazil was on. People were looking at me like, who is this crazy like little kid that obviously doesn't belong here? So I
18
understand
years
that.
old. Yeah. Like, so there's certain things about soccer that just really grabs my attention. I think those two are probably the ones, just the beauty of it.
Yeah.
But I'll watch sports. I'll watch football. I probably don't get as crazy about it on Sundays as others. That's
Most of America.
Yeah,
That's their new pastime.
exactly. I think basketball and soccer are probably my 2 that
Definitely
I
2 of my top
gravitate.
favorite sports too. What is one guilty pleasure you have that you can't go without?
Dang, dude. I'm probably sweets. I don't even know. Ice cream.
Ice cream. What flavor?
Ben and Jerry's or McConnell's.
Okay.
I'll mix it up.
No, that's a brand. I'm asking
Yeah,
you for particular.
Sometimes I'll just go straight vanilla, but I'll mix it up. I think that's why I don't have a guilty brand, because I'm always going for different. I like to just
Because you're
taste
so
around.
routine in life, you want to have some
Yeah,
flexibility in
some
your.
flexibility. I have like 3 different flavors so in my freezer, so I'll go to pick on one if
Yeah.
I'm feeling like I
You
want
just close your eyes and.
I want chunky
this one
monkey today. No, I want vanilla.
Yeah.
So I'll go all over. Yeah.
That's cool. What are some non-negotiables you have in your daily routine? that help you get to where you're at or help you get on the right path during the day?
Yeah. So for non-negotiables with people is just honesty and integrity. I think that's what's non-negotiable for me with people. If I'm working with somebody on a project, whether it's a teammate, employee, whatever, attention to detail is a non-negotiable. I noticed that because I spent so much time on detail for me.
Yeah.
When somebody messes it up, it's like nails on a chalkboard.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think, and responsibility.
Don't ever proofread any of my stuff.
Yeah. And just owning up, if I mess up, I want to be the first to admit it, and I should not have any issues. But at the same time, other people don't make excuses.
Yeah.
If you mess up, own up.
Yeah.
There's usually a lot of forgiveness if you own up to it. But if you try to hide it, that kind of turns me off, or others probably,
You talked about that a few times, accountability and now owning up. And it's always easy to not do the right thing, but it's always better to do the hard thing because at the end, it's going to have a better result. Where did you learn that, and when do you remember having that quality?
Probably middle school when I got in trouble for not owning up to my mistakes and getting in trouble. Yeah, just like I think it was just one of those things where you're instilled that by your parents, especially as you're growing up and you're learning responsibility and but why did you do this? Well, because that person, we're
How
kids.
to explain it away.
Yeah, and I think it was just a lesson learned about owning responsibility, owning up when you make mistakes. We all make mistakes.
Yeah.
But people respect you more if you say, yeah, I did that. That was my fault. And I think that was just instilled in me in such a young age that I kind of took it with me.
Sure.
Probably because I did screw up pretty bad. I don't remember what it was, but I remember I think I got in a fight in school, and I think that's what probably happened. So
Got it.
something like that.
Is it still hard when you make a little oopsie? Do you still have that? Maybe they won't find out, or is it immediate?
I gotta own it up. Yeah, even if it's a disagreement with my wife, something like that. If I know it's something I did, we'll hash it out. I'll own it up to it, my part. And it's usually the best way of communication too. Having that, and then work. Yeah, for sure that those things happen. And sometimes people on my team, they're more hard on themselves, telling me when they're owning up a mistake than I am on them.
Yeah.
And that's we all are sometimes, right?
Yeah.
We can be really harder on ourselves. So, and usually if they own up, I'm not going to be as upset at them as they are on themselves.
It's okay to make
mistakes.
Yeah,
we're human. We're all going to make mistakes.
Yeah, how you learn from that and apply it forward.
Yeah, exactly.
I know the mistakes I've made. I remember those more than most of the successes that I've had.
Right?
So,
we all.
Yeah. What's the best concert you've ever been to?
Dang. Okay.
Going out of order here.
I know, it's all good, man. I remember going to the Black Keys probably about 10 years ago. The Black Keys was a lot of fun. I also had some really cool seats. I went to one, man, this is still taking it back to 2002. You'd be surprised on a couple of these. There was the same summer. The Dave Matthews Band in Connecticut. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Just the crowd and the type of vibe and everything
Still
around
puts
that time.
on a good show.
Yeah. And that same summer, Eminem and Ludacris had Exhibit. They were all kind of touring together. So those are like three that stick out to me. The Black Keys, again, like I said, really random, wide genres, right? But yeah, those three stick out to me as one of my faves. Yeah.
Okay. Who's one band that you would love to see that you didn't get to see?
Or the Beatles.
The Beatles. Okay.
Yeah. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah,
man.
that came right out, man.
Right. Yeah. Beatles. Yeah. I would still, if I would see Paul McCartney, that would be cool. He's
fanboy.
Yeah, he's a musical genius, man.
Yeah, they were the trendsetters, right? And kind of the first to do what they did. Let's see. You talked about a couple books that you read. Is there any book that you gift or something that you give to other people, maybe in your business as you're transitioning to an advisor and a mentor? Is there anything that?
Yeah, usually that's The 7 Habits is a book that I usually buy for others.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it was so impactful for me that I want to make sure other people have the chance to read it and learn from it as well. Yeah, I can't think of another book that sticks out. I'm sure that E-Myth Revisited was one.
Email me and we'll put it in the addendum maybe.
Yeah, exactly.
If there was one message that you could disseminate or tell people, what would that message be? It could be personal, business, professional, whatever comes to mind that you've learned and that you want to put forward in the ethos and atmosphere.
Yeah, I think it's going back to what my aunt said, is just give more than what you receive, and that gives you an abundance mindset. It always comes back to you. I tried following in her footsteps, and I could say with certainty that there's something going on with that when you give more than you think about receiving.
That's awesome.
And it always comes back to you. Yeah.
I appreciate it, man. I have no other questions. I really appreciate you taking the time, Abiel.
All right, man.
It's been
Thank
real.
you.
Third podcast done.
All right. Cool, man.